but it's because we're just going to talk about this one knob. This one knob actually represents the entirety of everything you're seeing, and then another set of the entirety of everything you see all at once, and then in another way, kind of every single possible setting in an infinite degree. I don't know if it's necessarily infinite. I don't know enough about computers to tell. Anyway, the point of the matter is, this is the Morph knob, and despite being this diminutive knob in a corner, it's kind of the main aspect of the whole PolyBrute. Certainly, we've talked about all of these different functions and the way that this thing can be used as a really super powerful synthesizer. But this little knob sort of defines the really amazing characteristic of this synthesizer. And so we're going to talk about it. And to talk about it, okay, someone is like, why am I not hearing a synthesizer play? Here you go, here. Okay, now you've heard something. Now I'm going to keep talking. Okay, if you think back in time regarding movies and television, let's say you wanted to have in a movie or television a lady turn into a tiger. She's laying on a couch, and then all of a sudden you want there to be a tiger where she was, which is something I swear I've seen that on Star Trek or something. Anyway, imagine this woman lounging on a couch, and then she turns into a tiger. Now, back in the olden days, there were a number of ways that this could be achieved. Probably the earliest way to do this was to film the lady on the couch and then cut, and then get her off the couch and put a tiger on the couch, and then, splice those two films together. So basically you have one frame that's a woman, and the next frame it's a tiger, and pow, as the viewer is watching the movie, there's a woman laying on a couch, and then there's a tiger there. Pow, she turned into a tiger, right? Now that was amazing technology for that time, and it probably scared people crapless. They're like, oh my God, how did that happen? But it was a trick. So the lady didn't really turn into a tiger. Anyway, so then the next way, as technology progressed, the next way to do this was, of course, to crossfade two different shots from one to the other. So like you could film the lady lounging on the couch and then film the tiger on the couch and then crossfade between those two different films. And you'd see the lady fade away and the tiger fade in at the same time. And even so, that was still a pretty cool effect. But really, when you think about what it would look like if someone actually turned into a tiger, it wouldn't look like either of those things. It would be this bizarre morph where the lady's human eyeball would grow and expand, and the iris would expand, and the pupil would stretch out into this weird slit shape. And that's what it would really look like, and it would probably be extremely painful. But anyway, the point of the matter is, as the woman turned into a tiger, all of the human features would change into the tiger features independently, and you'd see this process take place where the person changed into the tiger. If you stopped that process halfway through, you'd have an eyeball that was bigger than a human eyeball, but smaller than a tiger eyeball. It would have a bigger iris than a human eyeball and a smaller iris than a tiger eyeball. And it wouldn't have the circular pupil of a human, and it wouldn't have the slit-shaped pupil of a tiger. It would have something that was in between those two. That describes the morph. Okay, now I can tell someone's out there going, will you please play a synthesizer? Okay, so keeping that in mind, let's talk about something else. Well, this is not my fault. This is Arturia's fault for doing something so groundbreaking and bizarre that it needs this level of explanation for it really to be completely understood by everybody. Okay, the next thing I want you to think about is the fact that we've been using presets on synthesizers since 1978. Analog synthesizers, even. If your analog synthesizer has presets, it's using digital technology that stores the analog settings And that's been the way it has been since 1978. Well, it actually stores digital settings of knob placement and not actual. Anyway, the point of the matter is we've been using digital presets all along. So what Arturia has done is they live, as a company that makes software, they live in this digital world, and they're like, okay, what's the difference between one preset and another preset? All of the functions are the same. It's just what their settings are that are different. And so if you have something like, say, this oscillator, it has a continuously variable sawtooth to triangle. So if I'm not mistaken, this is actually a crossfade. So, but it still keeps in mind that since this is a digital knob, you have the ability to digitally control this knob. Like if you're using the patch panel, you can move back and forth between these two things. And what if, since you can do that with one knob, why can't you do it with every single knob simultaneously? Which is what Morph is. Okay, on this template preset, all I have is a sawtooth wave. And so we've been hearing that sawtooth wave. With the Morph, each patch is two patches. Each preset is actually made up of two presets. So you have an A preset and a B preset. So right now, in the simplest possible way, A is a straight sawtooth and B is a straight square wave. So when we're set to Morph A, we just make a patch. And then we turn it all the way to Morph B, and then we make a different patch. And then the magic starts, which I'll show you. But first of all, I want to demonstrate that, okay, so we have a patch A, which is a sawtooth, and patch B, which is a square wave. What happens as we morph? You can hear aspects of the sawtooth going away as we move towards the square wave, and aspects of the square wave going away as we move towards the saw, or vice versa, which might sound like a crossfade, but what we're seeing is a digital change. Well, okay, let's just be honest. It's interpolation is what it really is. It is a calculation between two digital settings, and we're seeing an interpolation. So halfway through that interpolation, we don't have a crossfade. We actually have the digital equivalent of what the settings are between these two waves, which is a square wave with characteristics of a sawtooth or vice versa. And we could whip it back and forth. Which is cool, even on its own, if it could only do that with waves or only could do that with filter settings. But it does it with literally everything, effects included, everything. You create a patch and you create another patch, and every single setting will move from what it is on A to what it is on B, and you'll get every single patch that exists between the two, which, you know, that's a huge spread. And I guarantee there are going to be times where you move from one patch you've created to another patch you've created, and you think, wow, it sounds really cool about a third of the way in, way cooler than those other two patches. And then sometimes that's the patch you actually literally want. Let me also tell you that this morph knob can be voltage controlled in any way that you want, using anything, using the ribbon, using aftertouch, using envelopes, using everything. Every control voltage source on this can control this. So you can whip between two different patches in any way that you'd like, whether you want to use this device, which we haven't talked about, or a mod wheel or anything. So you basically have two full patches and every single patch that exists between them at your hands at any given time. And I guarantee you're going to find that that is an amazing spread.